Pretty awesome, huh?
That's really big.
That's
wow.
amazing.
It's just beautiful, too, just the form. I wonder what the people were thinking when Noah was building this. They have this model up here that is really fascinating. Kind of gives you a picture of the whole boat.
Yeah.
I think it's like 1 to 48 or something.
Whoa, look at all those, like, cages.
Yeah, you can see what's inside.
A lot of cages, right?
Yeah, lots of cages.
Because that's what it was for, basically, right? To save life and get it to start again. I think they have about 1,300 or 1,400 kinds that they have cages for, which they think are all the kinds that were alive at that time. So you can see, I mean, look at the size of the timbers that they have here. It gives you a sense of just how massive this is.
It needs to support a lot of weight.
And how much work it took to put this together. Pretty cool. I love this part of the ship because it just gives you the picture of just how massive this thing is. And to think that this was the reality of what Noah had to do.
Right.
You know, and what God had asked Noah to do. The issue of a global flood is a big issue. What do you guys see on campus? Or maybe it's not even talked about, but what do you see on campus in terms of people thinking about this?
These questions are being asked by everyone. It's not just like a personal, I'm struggling through this. It is something that I think society struggles with.
Right. I didn't realize how big of an issue this was before coming to Wheaton because I grew up as a young Earth creationist. And so that's all I was ever taught. And I didn't realize that there were so many people out there who were questioning whether that was true or not.
Well, I actually started a club with Isabel and, like, Abby on campus. It's called the Creation Society. And we got cool wristbands that glow in the dark.
Is that right?
Yeah, you want one?
Okay.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
All right. Oh, is that for me?
Yeah.
Well, thank
honestly,
you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So first I kind of grew up like young Earth, and then I came to like my Christian college, and I was like, there was like just kind of like pushed in class like, hey, have you thought about like other like views like theistic evolution or old Earth creationism? And just like, no, I haven't, but like I'm willing to learn. So like I studied a lot and learned them.
We sat down for a conversation one day, and he was kind of questioning things, and I could tell he was struggling with things. And I just encouraged him. I was like, hey, Alex, it's good to question things because we need to know where our faith is at, and we shouldn't have blind faith. We should be searching for the evidence and the truths within biblical texts and throughout science.
So then I texted all my friends, and like mostly in the sciences. Like we got like a really big email list. Like there was a lot of like interest on campus. Like it didn't matter like what your view is. Like there was a lot of like passion. Like this is a big issue.
It's not a salvation issue, but it does define how you view God and His power also, because I feel like if He wrote in the Bible that He created the world in 6 days, He's fully capable of doing that.
It does affect the way you read the Bible, and it affects the way you view God's character.
This is where you first get to see the cages
Okay.
that they built. Yeah, I think every kind that they had that they thought, you know, would have been on the ark, they've made these replicas of each of the animals, and they've done a marvelous job. But it's obviously one of we would call the dinosaur kind.
What's that clay pot over there?
That's the water for the animals. So they fill that up, and then you know, like you can buy these things for cats. You have cats, don't you?
I do have cats,
okay.
yes.
You can buy these things for cats or dogs, and as they drink it, then, you know, it comes out. So that's
Comes out
probably
the
what they
bottom.
have.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah. So this is the horse kind. I like this because I love horses. But remember, the horse kind is just that genetic pool that when they repopulate the earth, had the genetic capability to create all the different horses. And the same is true for the giraffe. So this doesn't look like a giraffe, but it's a giraffe kind.
Right.
See the walkways that they have there, and they give you showing somebody taking food, and then those little funnels at the top, where then they could then dump food and it would go down into each of the pens.
And this is stored all the food.
Right, yeah, so that's food or water or oil. think they're just trying to show that there was plenty of space to have that kind of storage. Alex, why are you a young Earth creationist? Is it just because you grew up that way?
No, it's because that's where I started. But then I just was really pushed to like look at like the evidence and like see like what's on both sides, and like our sin like in Genesis 3 like that like changed everything. Like all this like corruption and like evil like that's where it came from. And like, it wasn't like God said like I created and like the earth was like very good, and if that's like in like the original like blueprint or design, like for me that like kind of doubts like the goodness of God.
And also, the issue of death was a big part for me, having death before the fall. That doesn't line up with God's character and his justice and love.
I think, actually, if you talk, it's the character of God that really is at question here. Because if, for example, if evolution is true, then God has created a whole universe and system in which death and the survival of the strong, destroying the weak, is a part of God's plan. That doesn't seem to match what we read in the scripture about a God who's not only compassionate, but he commands us to be compassionate, to care for the weak, to care for the needy.
And going along with that, I think even when you have, the new creation and what that's going to be like, it's supposed to mirror creation in the beginning when there was no sin. And if we have that death when God created the earth, if you have that view, I think if the new creation is supposed to mirror that, and it doesn't line up for me when I view it that way. And I really do think God had that specific plan in mind, and he created it in 6 days. And how great it's going to be when we see that with the new creation. It's exciting.
That's a great point, Isabel. It really is. It's hard to imagine the picture of the lion laying down with the lamb.
Like Isaiah 11. Yeah.
Is the same as the millions of years of evolution, of destruction of animals and creatures and so forth.
Right.
So that's a great point. This is the living quarters.
Oh.
Because they had to live somewhere, right?
These are really nice rooms.
Is Japheth?
Okay.
Didn't it look like the Japheth you've always thought Japheth looked like? So this is Shem. Looks like he's reading without a light. I mean, this really happened.
Yeah.
And they had to have food prepared. The way they portrayed it is that Noah, because he was a righteous man, no doubt was probably still a vegetarian, which would have made cooking a lot easier, right? If you're not cooking meat and, spoons and bowls and all the things they would have needed, baskets, places to eat. So, Abby, why are you a young Earth creationist?
I was taught that looking at the Bible first and reading it as a historical narrative, I believe, is the way that it was written, intended to be read. And so if you look at it that way and look at the scientific evidence without the paradigms that you were talking about, I think it points to a young Earth. I just have stuck to that view, even though there's lots of good evidence on the other side as well. But I believe that there's stronger evidence for young Earth.
The Bible is God's form of communication to us. If we read that first, and then we see how science is parallel to what has occurred throughout the Bible, it's so neat to see that. And I mean, today, just seeing the Ark has been so cool. Just really solidifying this is real.
Yeah, it really puts a reality into the text, doesn't it? I mean, we read it and we believe it's historical narrative, but when you see it having been built according to those specifications, it just makes it more real, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Glad you guys could come. I really do.
It's been a great trip.
hosting us.
Yeah,
I had a good
thanks
time.
for walking us around.
Very
My
fun.
pleasure. I love being with college students.